Well, good morning. Welcome to Grover Hill Zion United Methodist Church. Here on this morning, the sixth Sunday after Pentecost. This morning I want to talk to you about trouble in paradise. We have trouble in paradise from time to time, don't we? That's, for whatever reason, it seems to happen, whether it be in the family, trouble in paradise, whether it be at work, trouble in paradise, or some organization, or even the church. Sometimes there's trouble in paradise, isn't there? And God's people have always had trouble in paradise. I want to share with you a story this morning about that. It comes from Genesis chapter 25, verses 19 through 34. To start with, let me share with you a story about two monks. Monks, you remember what monks are? They used to be depicted in the movies as the little balding men that always wore the brown robes around and lived in monasteries and the like. Well, anyway, there were two monks. One was a senior monk, one was a junior monk, and they were traveling together. And at one point, they came to a river, and it had a rather strong current to it. So they started preparing themselves to cross the river. And then they looked around and they saw a very pretty young girl down the ways, and she was attempting as well to cross that river. And the young woman asked them if they could help her across to the other side. These two monks just glanced at one another because they had taken vows not to touch a woman. And then, without a word, the older monk bent over and he picked up the woman and he placed her on her shoulders and he carried across the river. And he placed her down then on the other side. And they continued on their journey. But the younger monk was shocked. He couldn't believe what he just saw. And after rejoining the older monk, he was speechless. He couldn't speak. An hour passed and he didn't say a word, and neither did the other monk. They just kept on traveling. 2 more hours passed, and 3. And finally, the younger monk just couldn't contain himself any longer. And he blurted out, "As monks, you know we're not permitted a woman. How could you then carry that woman on your shoulders? How could you do such a thing?" Then, this is kind of a Zen story, if you will. Then in this story, it has a beautiful message about living in the present moment. How often do we carry around past hurts, things that happened to us long time ago, old resentments, and when the only person we're really hurting is ourselves? Think about that. You know, I've known people over the years, I've encountered many people over the years. Something has happened to them 30 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or even a year ago. Or maybe back in high school, and they'll say, "Oh, that person did this to me in high school. I don't want anything to do with them." And we forget that high school was a long time ago. High school isn't happening today. And we continue to want to live in the past, don't we? Instead of living for the present. That's all we really have. We hope for the future, but this moment is all we really have and to hold. It's all we have. So we hang on to those past hurts when other people say things or behave in a way that's hurtful to us. We just can't let those things go. We can choose, though, to ruminate over past actions or events, but ultimately it will weight us down and it just sap us out of our energy. We're really hurting ourselves when we can't let go of past hurts, because they're not here today to hurt us. They're gone. Instead, we could choose to let go of what doesn't serve us anymore, and we can concentrate on this present moment until we can find a level of peace and happiness in our present circumstances of our lives. We will never be content if we can't find true happiness, because, as I said a moment ago, this moment, this present is all we have. All we have. Abraham was getting very old, and his son Isaac was the son of the promise. He was 40 years old with no wife and no children yet. And Abraham was concerned about how God was going to fulfill his promise to Abraham, so that Abraham's descendants would be as numerous as the stars of the skies or the sand of the seas. Without any grandchildren from his son Isaac, there would be no promise. Or no more promises, anyway. One wonders if God meant what he said in those situations, don't you? You say, gee whiz, did God really mean that? Where's all the grandchildren at? Abraham became concerned, and he began searching for a wife for Isaac. And he found Rebekah to be Isaac's wife. It was love at first sight for the two of them. They felt like they were in paradise. Everything was just going fine and dandy. They were married for 20 years before they had any children. After 20 years, Rebekah became pregnant with twins. And the babies jostled each other inside of her womb. And she asked the Lord, why was this happening? You ever ask the Lord that? Lord, why is this happening to me? And God answered her, saying that there were two nations inside of her womb, two peoples from within her, that they would be separated from each other, and the older would serve the younger. Now that goes against tradition, because their tradition said the younger would serve the older, and God has flipped that on its end. The names of these twins were Jacob and Esau. Now that was strange, because it was just completely, as I said, opposite of tradition. It was the older one that would normally receive the biggest share of the inheritance and receive the blessing from the father of the family. Finally, these twins were born, and the first baby to come out was very hairy. So they named him Esau, meaning hairy. Later, he would also be called Edom, which, if you read the scriptures, there were the Edomites, which Edom was at the southern end of Israel, toward the Red Sea, down at the bottom of the Dead Sea. And that word Edom means red. The second baby came out grasping the heel of the first, so they named him Jacob, meaning heel clutcher, or sometimes it meant deceiver. Jacob would soon do that to his brother Esau, to deceive him, and he would deceive his father as well. Well, anyway, the boys grew, and Esau loved the outdoors, and he loved to be in the fields and to hunt. And Jacob, on the other hand, liked being in the city. Father Isaac acquired a taste for wild game, which Esau provided for him. So Isaac, the father, favored Esau. Rebekah, on the other hand, favored Jacob. Thus, trouble in paradise. Have you ever seen a family where parents favor one child over another? That scenario really doesn't end well, does it? No, it doesn't. There's nothing that will separate a family more than one person being favored over another. Stirs up jealousy and hatred and strife. And a child will sense when someone is favored over them. And there's a good chance that there will be damage for the rest of their life. They will carry the scars of those deep wounds, and they will need some deep healing in their life. Aren't you glad that God isn't that way? That it doesn't matter to him who you are or what your name is, that he loves you just the same. You know, we're told that God is no respecter of persons. He loves us just the same. And he cares for us, and he wants that relationship with us that he created us to have. Oftentimes with sibling rivalries, they last a long, long time. And there's unforgiveness among them. And it seems like that unforgiveness just won't go away. People just can't let go of the past hurts and the baggage. You know, they're like carrying that woman across the river, and that young monk just holding on to that event that happened hours before. He just couldn't let go of it. People want to carry those past hurts with them wherever they go. They wear them like a badge of honor, and they end up doing themselves tremendous damage. It doesn't matter to the one that did the hurting or the one that offended them. It doesn't matter what that person that's hurt and hanging on to those hurts. It doesn't matter what they think. In fact, they're not even thinking about that person that they allegedly hurt. But it does matter to the one who can't forgive, because it hurts them. It hurts them, and when they can't forgive, what you've done is given the one you can't forgive, you've given them control over your mind, over your being. You let them live rent-free in your head. Well, things get worse for Isaac's family in paradise. One day Esau came in from hunting in the field, and he was so famished that he couldn't stand it. His brother Jacob was cooking some red stew or lentil stew. And Esau said to Jacob, "Quick, give me some of that stew. I am dying of hunger. I need something to eat." Jacob said, "Not so fast. Before I give you any of my stew, first sell me your birthright. Sell me your birthright. You're the oldest. You're entitled to the birthright, to so much more of the family estate." And Esau said, "Well, what good is a birthright to me? Give me something to eat. I've got to have it." And Jacob made Esau swear an oath to sell him his birthright. So Esau swore an oath, and then Jacob gave him something to eat and something to drink. And Esau had his fill, and then he got up and left. This would be the beginning of a feud that would separate brothers and break their mother Rebekah's heart. Wounds such as these, family wounds, go deep inside of one, and they're very hard to heal. Thanks be to God that He loves you and me so much that He sent His only begotten Son into the world to heal, love, and forgive, and to restore our relationship between God and man so that we can live in peace forevermore. The Apostle Paul writes to us in Romans chapter 12, verse 18, that if possible, as far as it depends on you, you have a choice. Live at peace with everyone. If you have those deep wounds and deep hurts, if you're carrying those around, give them to Jesus. Ask Him to heal you, mind, body, and soul. And He will. And everything will be all right. Well, God bless you, and just continue to enjoy this beautiful weather and have a great week.